What rules were put in place because of you? Story 1. As a kindergartner, I once fell asleep in the bus. When I woke up, the bus was in the garage and I had to yell to get someone to get me out. So, to this day, every bus driver in my school district needs to walk to the back of the bus and check every seat before they park the bus. Seems like a good rule to have. Story 2. One of my favorite childhood moments sometime in 3rd grade. I got watermelons banned from handball. Watermelons in our school were when you could duck under the ball in place of hitting the ball against the wall. Only your torso or head were allowed to go under the ball and count as a watermelon. My fine moment came when I made a diving leap headfirst on a low hit because I knew my opponent was too far away to recover. Unfortunately, I did it face first and I slid along the gritty concrete and skinned half my face off. I had to wear a face bandage for at least a month. I made it. Everyone agreed it counted as a watermelon. I won that round and had to go to the nurse's office. 100% would do it again. The next day watermelons were banned and everybody hated me while high-fiving me at the same time. Story 3. Minor 1, but when I was in elementary school, we had one of those bridge building challenges using toothpicks and hot glue. My partner and I realized if we just coated the entire thing with a thick layer of hot glue, it would make our bridge strong as hell. So, we used like a full pack of hot glue sticks, like 20 of them. It was more glue than toothpicks. After that, they limited the number of glue sticks you could use. Story 4. Back when Taco Bell had the spinny game where you could win food with a nickel, dime, or quarter. I could feed my whole friend group with $3s because I could win that thing at a 90% clip by jiggling the spinner. Taco Bell then posted a piece of paper stating that individuals could only win once and that no jiggling was allowed. Story 5. I got our HR box taken away at work because the HR lady threatened not to pay us if we missed a clock in or clock out. In our defense, the phones didn't always work and the clock-in system was really unreliable. I printed out the law stating that was illegal, highlighted it, and put it in her box when no one was around. She threw an unholy fit and tried to figure out who put it in her box, and from then on everything had to be handed in personally. Story 6. I don't think it was a rule, but it was kind of an unspoken thing. I was the only brown kid in my school and would act out for attention, acceptance, and my classmates would get a huge laugh out of it, but I would be sent to the principal's office every day. I think my principal knew I wasn't a bad kid, just looking for attention. He moved a permanent desk into his office for me, and every day when I got sent down I would sit there. Had my name on it and everything. By the end of that school year I would pack snacks for both of us. Haven't thought about that principal in a while, but I hope he is well and was patient with other kids as he was with me. Story 7. English media class in high school. End of year project was to film a movie. Me and 3 other guys decided to film a gangster movie. Long story short, while filming the final shootout scene behind a local post office, we were swarmed by police and almost got shot. One of the guys got arrested and my teacher almost got fired. The following year, the curriculum was changed and the final project was now an essay to be completed on a popular movie. Story 8. Local amusement park added a no blindfolds on roller coasters rule because of me. When I was in middle school, my friend and I thought it would enhance the overall experience if we blindfolded ourselves on the biggest roller coaster at a local amusement park. We got one of those pictures they take on the ride, and there we are, blindfolded in the middle of a tunnel, having the time of our lives. Looking back, we easily could have strangled ourselves or worse because we literally just used scarves tied around our heads. Next year we went back to the same roller coaster and they had added a no blindfolds or loose accessories to the list of rules before the ride. Story 9. At a ballpark I worked concessions at, they had an all-you-can-eat promo day where tickets were more expensive than usual, but concessions around the stadium were free, excluding alcohol. So I worked that day and of course it was chaos, but when the lines started dying down later in the game they started sending some of the hourly employees home, myself included. But of course, I didn't go home. After I clocked out, I stayed in the stadium and got some cheeseburgers and Philly steak and soda and found an empty seat in the crowd for the last few innings. Next year, same promo, but new rule for staff: if you get sent home early, you have to actually leave the stadium. Story 10. Golf users can no longer return an unlimited number of balls for tokens. When I was maybe 12ish, there was a kids' outdoor play area. Go-karts, batting cages, and indoor was something like a Chuck E. Cheese with token-based games, etc. You could get a wristband for maybe $15 and it'd get you unlimited rides, mini golf and some other activities. Everything else costs tokens. When you finished golfing, you'd get 2 tokens for bringing your ball back. Unlimited golf, 50 cents worth of play value inside. So, my friends and I would go there, speed run 2 golf games and give the balls back. $1 to our pockets. Later on, we started just fishing balls out of the water hazards and turning them in. Subtly at first and then in bulk later. The guys working there didn't care or actively laughed at it. So, we'd have a few hundred tokens, then we started selling them 5 for $1. We stopped buying the unlimited bands. I'd bike there and earn $25 in a couple of hours. Management eventually caught on and altered the token for ball exchange. Story 11, freshman year of high school, I had to give an oral presentation on a random Greek god. This was at a Christian school, for context. I got Dionysus, so naturally I spent many hours researching on YouTube how to act drunk, wasn't much of a partier, so I didn't know, and pretended to be absolutely wasted for my presentation. It was a great success, but my teacher unsurprisingly banned Dionysus for the following years. It didn't help that Dionysus was basically the god of orgies and bestiality, if I remember correctly. Story 12. My younger brother was always late to school, small school, and was tardy. He figured out if he just skipped first period and went to second, he was counted as being in school and no late penalty because he was at second period on time. They changed this the following year. Story 13. Male students are not allowed to wear hair accessories. We had the rule about hair not touching collars, couldn't be past eyebrows or over the ears. I grew my hair out and just put it up in headbands. After receiving multiple detentions and fighting them and winning, the next year, they made the rule. Story 14. I used to ride on the bottom area of the shopping carts at our nearest grocery store. I thought it was fun to put my hands on the front of it, sliding them along the ground while the cart was moving. Yes, I was gross. One sticky spot on the ground later, and my hand was pulled back and my thumb went right under the wheel. Crunched my little thumbnail and my mom had to remove it. Anyway, the store put up signs after that saying it's against the rules for kids to ride in the bottom of carts. Story 15. My junior high made a rule against yo-yos in class after I tried to do a trick and my yo-yo flew across the room and broke a glass beaker set. I'm sorry guys. Story 16. Back in the day, a radio station had a weekly trivia contest. The prize was a free pizza and movie rental. Somehow my mom figured out which book they were using for the trivia questions. She bought it and memorized all the answers. Each week we would call in immediately. Sometimes we were the first, but even if we weren't, it didn't matter because other people were usually just guessing. We won almost every time. Even though we changed up who would actually make the call, they eventually figured out we were all from the same household. So they made it a rule you couldn't win if your family had already won in the last month or whatever. Up till then, we enjoyed a lot of free pizzas.
That's awesome. I was home from surgery and listened to the radio all day. I figured out the rotation of the giveaways in the landline days. I would dial all the numbers but one, and right on schedule I would hit the last number to be caller number 1. Now here's the trick, if you don't hang up, you will still be there when they pick up the phone again. So I would be caller 1, 3, 5, etc. They got hip after I took my whole neighborhood to see Aerosmith with like 30 free tickets, posters, t-shirts and albums. Low-tech days.
Story 17. I put a croissant in one of those hotel toasters. It soon became engulfed in flames and needed extinguishing. Next day at breakfast they made a sign that said, if you'd like your croissant toasted, please ask a member of staff. Story 18. No playing with the bean sprouts during recess. Next to the playground at my elementary school, there were 2 or 3 northern catalpa trees. I didn't have many friends in elementary school, so sometimes I would sit on the edge of the playground and play with the bean sprouts. By play with, I mean I would pick them up off the ground and fully peel them apart, butting any actual beans or seeds in my pockets. I might have the wrong type of tree there, but you get the gist. Anyway, other people gradually started doing the same thing until eventually there were just recesses when a lot of people would just play with bean sprouts the entire time. Our elementary school had strict playground rules. As more people began playing with the beans would just end up in the school. Like, everywhere. On desks, beans. On the floor, beans. In baskets, beans. It became a definite issue, and with beans come bugs. As a result, they banned us from playing with the beans. I still did it though because I like beans. Story 19. My elementary school was located in the center of the neighborhood, and my 5th grade class was the first to get outdoor trailers for classrooms. We'd asked for bathroom passes and then walk home. Next year they built a fence around the school. Story 20. No typewriters in class. I was kind of a kid, and while my school allowed us to use laptops, I would play video games. Primarily Warcraft 3. In class. No sound or anything, so I wasn't being a complete nuisance, but I wasn't doing my work. A teacher told me I couldn't use my laptop. I happened to have a 1950s Remington Quiet Rider portable, all-mechanical typewriter. It was anything but quiet you'd expect from a typewriter. After one full day of studiously taking notes and doing my assignments via typewriter, my teacher said I could use my laptop as long as I didn't bring the typewriter to class. Story 21. Uber expense with drinks for clients at my work. Years ago we took a bunch of clients out and everyone had way too much to drink, so I ordered everyone Ubers home. Turned in the expense report to our account manager, just under $400 in Ubers, and she had no clue what an Uber was. I explained to my bosses that we expense drinks for clients, why not expense Ubers? Now if we pay for drinks for clients, we also pay for Ubers. Story 22. Oh, I was a teacher who coached debate and took the team of high school students on weekend tournament trips. I had new rules every year, and my coach and I privately called them the name of the student. Example, the Jess rule was that if you assaulted anyone, you were sent home. The Annie rule was no debating in fake accents. There was the Dylan rule, which was no communal PR and watching in the hotel rooms. Jess rule number 2 was do everything you can to vomit into the garbage can or toilet and not on the floor. Jess rule number 3 was no yelling at nurses in the ER that you are a virgin when they ask you to take a pregnancy test. Jess rule number 4 was we can cut you off after 12 minutes of no stop talking. Jess was a character, obviously. If you've gotten this far and enjoying the content, please leave a comment of your own story. We'd love to make a video of them in the future. Story 23. I used to work for a company that had flex hours. You could work all you want but no overtime. So I would work 4 to 10-hour days and then take 3-day weekends. That lasted for about 2 months before my employer made a rule that we had to be there 5 days a week. Then I used to come in at 4 a.m. to avoid traffic, skip lunch, then leave at noon, and nobody noticed for about 6 months, but they figured out I was not coming back after lunch and changed the policy so I could not come to work until 8 a.m. So I started working lots of extra time and started banking my flex time and saved up about 430 hours by October, 10 hours a week of OT, and was informed by HR that I could not roll it over in the new year, so I scheduled a 12-week vacation. Yeah, they made a new rule over that too. When COVID hit and I had to stay home, I figured out I could do a side gig, so I got a second work-from-home job and worked both until I got caught and they laid me off. After that there was a new rule. I just like hacking the systems they set up. They were so difficult to work for that I wanted to figure out a way to make it work for me. Story 24. In middle school I would use Sharpies to tattoo myself. Other kids thought it was cool, so I started charging $1 per drawing wherever they wanted. Principal found out, and after I wouldn't stop, she put a ban on Sharpies for the entire school. Even the teachers couldn't bring them in. I'm a tattoo artist now. Story 25. The whole company now requires that if you have a lanyard for your name tag it must break away on the back because she got it caught on a top shelf and it choked her.
I worked at UPS and they required breakaway lanyards. I found out the hard way why this was required. My lanyard got caught under a package I put on a belt and it wasn't breaking away like it should. Next thing I know I'm moving with the belt and it's choking the shit out of me. Luckily it eventually broke off like it should, so I wasn't really hurt, but it was a terrifying experience.
Story 26. Military school I went to. After me, an adult is required to check the parade cannon to ensure it is clear and closely monitor the students as they load it. There is to never be another flaming rubber chicken flying over the parade grounds ever again. Circa 1989. Story 27. No stealing from the cash drawer at work or theft in general. I wasn't the one stealing but was managing a hotel when I caught an employee taking $20 out of the cash drawer and putting it in his pocket. I of course fired him on the spot and figured that was the end of it. 2 weeks later I get an unemployment notice from the state showing he filed for wrongful dismissal. I responded back stating he was terminated for theft. A week later they asked me to send them our employee handbook and training materials. Shortly thereafter I received notice that they awarded him unemployment because nowhere in our handbook or training materials did it explicitly state he was not allowed to take cash from the cash drawer. You would think that would just be common sense, but apparently the state of Wisconsin didn't agree. From that moment on, it was explicitly stated in the handbook and training materials that employees were not allowed to take money or any other property that does not belong to them. Story 28. I took a Quran class in college and my professor assigned us a major project due at the end of the semester on some facet of Islam. We were allowed to pick any topic except for religious extremism. He said that topic wasn't allowed because of what had happened a few years back. Apparently, a student of his had chosen bin Laden as his project and would look up information about extremism and terrorism. He was a psych major, so he found radicalization interesting and wanted to develop a paper on how someone became a terrorist. This involved him reading a bunch of writings from bin Laden and researching terrorist movements and people associated with terrorism. Mind you, this was all for a paper. The student was not religious at all and had absolutely no interest in extremism. Well, at the end of the semester, he turns in this awesome project and the year ends. The student is from out of state and is going to fly back to his family, except he's stopped at the airport. He gets told by TSA that he's on the no-fly list. Apparently, his extensive research flagged him as an extremist and there's now an investigation on him. They literally took him into another room and gave him a bunch of questions. They even called my professor to have him show the paper to corroborate his story. It all got cleared up in the end, but it was a nightmare. Because of that, the class stayed away from religious extremism. My professor said he was even nervous about researching terrorism at all because he didn't want a repeat of what happened. Story 29. My brother and I got into a cattle prod sword fight at a farm store. We shocked the hell out of each other a few times and now they are locked up. We were in our 30s. Story 30. A friend of mine in a military school found out the regs never stated what color the bed sheets for a bed made for inspection had to be in. So this madman went and bought Power Ranger sheets and made the perfect regulation bed. I have never seen so many sergeants lose their shit but be unable to do anything since the regs were perfectly followed. Needless to say, the next year they were updated to state sheets must be plain white. Story 31. When I was walking home from school, I had to walk next to the road to get to my house. I decided to see if I could walk with my eyes closed. I didn't feel the transition from gravel to road, and the cars didn't honk at me as they made a line because they thought I was deaf. I heard a noise, looked back, and ran off the street into an orchard. 2 weeks later, they put up deaf child area signs on both sides of the road I live on. Story 32. I had to sue my school district back in high school just to leave special education after fighting it for over a decade. Special education students now have the right built into every single IEP to attend any standard education class in their grade level or below and the associated credits, and also go to both health education and driver's education. They could do none of that before the lawsuit. Story 33. No sign language during silent lunch punishment. My lunch period was so loud we got put on silent lunch for over a month straight. I decided the only clear solution was to teach my entire table sign language so we could still talk without getting in trouble. Apparently, it was unfair to the kids who didn't know how to sign, so we had to stop. Story 34. I had a teacher in 7th grade that banned the use of the word shamu. We apparently were using it as a joke answer to everything, which I had started doing as a once-in-a-lifetime joke for the 1-hour period. News spread, I guess, that she didn't like it, and soon all 7 class periods were giggling and saying shamu to everything she said. I came in 2 days later to a referral, an accusation that I had organized the shamu party, and the entirety of her classes were instructed to never mention shamu in her presence again. It was obscure to say the least. Story 35. No makeup. I went to an all-boys school, and apparently this never came up until me and my emo friends rocked up in black eyeliner and lipstick. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Thread Talk for more content like this. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out. Have a dope day and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers!